Technically, the first symbiote ever created was a blade. Knull, the god of the symbiotes, made. He has many names, a lot to do with darkness. He seems to be the embodiment of darkness. They dub him Anti-Light, Abyss-Made Flesh, Destroyer of Stars. He really hates light. This is going to be a reoccurring theme in this video. Every symbiote is his creation that exists. Have you ever looked at the symbiotes in the Marvel Comics lore and was like, dang, they're strong? Well, let's just say this guy makes them look like a joke. The god of the symbiotes, Knull. See, they explain it like this when it comes to Knull. Before light, there was a void. It looks like he was sleeping in the darkness of the pre-creation universe. But then light happens. That's when we see the Celestials, cosmic beings you're probably going to see me bring up later on in this video. That's when Knull creates a weapon that was strong enough to actually cut a Celestial's head off. Of course, killing one Celestial like this would not go well, so one of the Celestials tried to banish him into the void, but it didn't go like they planned. And from the corpse of the dead Celestial, the head, that's where you see Knull make his forge, where he makes his armor, blah, 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 refining this famous sword, the Necro Sword. And here you can see a visual image of his armor here. This is the famous sword you probably know of, all black, the Necro Sword. So basically, Knull is the reason why Gore the God Butcher is so scary. All Gore's feats are technically a Knull feat. All the major sword, all black feats, pretty much are Knull feats of power. Knull discovered if he bonded his living abyss with lesser creatures, he could then manifest and pilot their new forms as vessels, draw strength from the host, get information about surroundings. He became like a symbiote hive mind, the god host, able to control them from galaxies away, see through their eyes. So the symbiotes were growing, learning, understanding things. This where it also became a problem for Knull. They started learning empathy, compassion, started getting their own opinions. So for a time, the symbiotes and Knull were just one. And you're probably thinking, well, Venom wasn't always doing Knull's bidding. Yeah, that's true. See, what had happened was his connection to them got severed. So that's when they started doing their own thing. That's where they started developing their own personalities, free will, getting their own opinion. They were seeking new hopes. They was infected by their light, Knull would call it. Their honor, nobility, and everything began to sweep into the hive. It was a poison to Knull. That's when the mutiny happened, and they turned against their creator. And they were somehow able to overwhelm him with numbers. He drowned in their darkness. That's why he's been gone so long. That's how the children came to Clintar. It literally means cage. It's the largest horde of symbiotes tethered together to make a cage. The thing about Knull is that throughout this video, I'm going to bring up his like children or avatars. It all is technically a feat for Knull still. If anything, you could say it's a weakened version of Knull. There's implications that a big part of Knull's power has a lot to do with the hive mind connection. Because, well, of course you knew Knull would eventually get freed. When Eddie did this to Amped Carnage, that's when it fully awakened Knull, and all else is history. He's freaking free. If all that stuff is too much for you, yeah, you can just read all of this to get understanding of Knull's existence in the handbook. Pages like this could all help you out, especially when it comes to the all black, which you're going to hear me bring up a lot in this video. Let's deep dive Knull, shall we? He's referred to as older than time. He's a cosmic Satan. Being a cosmic being, I shouldn't have to tell you this, but he's one of the most versatile characters ever. He's the ruler of the abyss, an existential chasm between the destroyed previous universe and the prime reality that took its place. He has regeneration. I mean, he has been stabbed through the face and kind of, shrugged it off. Can obviously fly himself by making himself have wings. Knull can open portals and make you forget what you've seen because he interacted with the video game version of Venom from Earth 1048. That's the Insomniac video game universe, y'all, during the King in Black event. But yeah, who needs speed when you can just make portals and just teleport people? So I guess Knull can just teleport if he needed. But I'll get back to his versatility in a bit. You can get a small idea of his strength. Even his avatars, you can see how hard he can throw people in the air. When he was fully connected to his hive mind again, we see his muscle here when he was in this planet-sized symbiote cage. I don't know how many tons this would be, but a planet's worth of mass of symbiotes he just bust out with his raw muscle. A good way to understand Knull's muscle is you see how he does Thor. This is a powered up more than beyond belief Thor, by the way. Just keep in mind that base Thor, when it comes to his muscle, can bench press planets, arm wrestle with other strong beings that can like move the planet out of orbit, pull planet-sized snakes. And notice a powered up Thor is having major problems pushing Knull off of him with his raw muscle. So it lets you know what Knull could more than likely bench press too. His muscle is literally pinning down beings like gods like Thor in a powered up state when his base state can bench press planets. So by default, Knull should be able to lift planets just like how Thor can if he's overpowering a higher version of Thor. I mean, what else could this possibly mean? He has the muscle. Silver Surfer has absurdly strong muscle muscle as well. We see Knull grapple and overpower him. So what does this say about Knull's strength when comparing his muscle to Silver Surfer? Let's just say Silver Surfer can move moons, support a weight of a star or sun landing on him. Like, yeah, Silver Surfer can withstand stars landing on him. What does that say about Knull? Wouldn't that pretty much confirm he can lift stars just like how Silver Surfer level beings can? If he's strangling Silver Surfer and Silver Surfer can't get out his grip with his own muscle, having the strength to lift one sun is pretty much proves you can lift any planet or all the planets in our solar system all at the same time if you can lift something this massive, which Knull technically should be able to if he's overpowering Silver Surfer, who can support the weight of stars on their back. With tentacle manipulation, you can see Knull's muscle is strong enough to restrain Silver Surfer's muscle to where he can't hardly move here. Wait a minute, let's look back on this feat one more time with Thor, him overpowering Thor with muscle right quick. Remember how Thor and Hercules, when it comes to muscle arm wrestling each other, for the most part are very similar to each other when it comes to raw strength? One can argue Hercules got the advantage, one can argue Thor, vice versa in their base states, of course. People always debate it. That's not really the point. The fact is, these two are freaking close. Why is that important? Well, you see Knull overpowering a powered up version of Thor when he can match, like in his base state, he can match a base Hercules. This is absurd considering base Hercules has the muscle to support the literal heavens themselves for 3 hours and such. Like, I'm talking about, you know, the relieving atlas of his duty feat. Like, Thor has to match this same being Hercules' muscle. Knull is overpowering Thor, a being that can match this guy. You see, it's the famous relieving atlas of his duty feat. They talk about it in detail in the lore about it being infinitely massive weights you have to support. It's a consistent feat in the mythos of Marvel, the Marvel iteration of this feat, lifting the universe or the sky. So practically, Knull overpowering Thor like this, it's almost like if Hercules was in that same situation, he would be able to overpower Hercules this way as well. Because this is a powered up all-father Thor that Knull is overpowering with muscle right here. So this would kind of make his feat more impressive than just lifting suns, stars. This would be about like saying that Knull himself can support infinitely massive weights, similar to Thor Hercules level beings. It's immeasurable, incalculable type strength we're talking about here. And he's doing this to an all-father Thor, somebody that usually matches Hercules in weaker states that can lift heavens and crap. I mean, when you look at the handbook for Knull, obviously his strength is maxed out. Pretty much everything's maxed out. He's insane. It doesn't take rocket science to know when you got this kind of strength, your punches are ridiculously heavy, obviously, right? Like, this isn't Knull in this occasion, but Marvel in general has acknowledged that when a character can lift a lot of weight, they're trying to let you know as the reader that they can punch really hard to the face if they can lift an absurd amount of weight. That should apply for Knull. Like, this is without the Necro Sword. We've seen him shove beings, strike hard enough to hit beings to the point where they launch into space. We see his power by manipulating symbiotes to make himself have bigger limbs to crush this helicopter. It should come as no surprise that he can make building-sized symbiote kind of hands to drill through entire buildings. He's destroyed entire planets. Not really much of a shocker. Knull can create symbiotic creatures larger than planets to attack you with it. We've seen him overwhelm characters like Storm. All of these feats are basically Knull. I mean, Knull, when he amps up different beings, they're strong enough to give some of the strongest powerhouses in Marvel issues like Invisible Woman. Can't hardly stand up to these beings amped up by Knull. It's narrated that Knull can unmake the stars in the sky. Are you really shocked he can destroy stars? One of the most absurd feats Knull has ever done, pulling up to the man, the myth, the legend, the Sentry himself, and with his raw power, just ripped the Sentry in half. Sentry's a being that has the power of 1,000,000 exploding suns, literally. That's a big part of his mythos, it's not just a statement. Because the comics do a good job at reminding you that he has the power of 1,000,000 exploding suns. They keep on saying it over and over in every comic about Sentry. So let's just say this kind of proves that Knull is stronger or can hit harder than 1,000,000 exploding suns. Right? I guess him ripping Sentry in half makes sense. He's implied to be above the X-Men, Avengers, Fantastic Four. Knull minions are making Sue get a nosebleed as strong as her shields are. Knull is a team buster. All these heroes, Captain America, Luke Cage, they cannot get free. They get overwhelmed and turn into his minions. One of the mightiest beings on Earth, Doctor Strange. We see him overwhelm him. Oh yeah, by the way, Knull does have blast power. You could say energy projection. He kind of immobilized Silver Surfer with his blast and then symbioted him up. Just to keep in mind, him doing this to Silver Surfer is insane because Silver Surfer can withstand being in exploding galaxies. What does that say about Knull's blast power? He can severely damage or weaken beings with his blast, concussive blast, beings that can withstand being in the middle of exploding galaxies. They can withstand that stuff, but yet Knull can damage these kind of beings. What does that say about Knull's blast power? Knull is consistently covering entire planets with symbiotes. He's done this here. More famously, he did this to Earth, covering up the entire planet to block the sunlight. The walls themselves were already planet-sized, right? But they was so powerful that it was, keeping back the Enigma Force. Silver Surfer had to really focus in a particular spot to even blast through it. I've been trying to go over his power without necessarily using the sword or whatever. I've been showing him use his fists, his blunt punches, his blunt kicks, him manipulating energy and energy blast, him manipulating symbiotes to make large symbiote fist-shaped avatars and stuff. That's what I've been focusing on so far. But when we're talking about other stuff like his blade, it's not really an outside thing because he's the one that created the blade anyway from the Abyss. He's the Lord of the Abyss. So I just wanted to make that clear. It's not really an outside power of help. It's still technically him using the sword too. But for the sake of argument, I've been purposely going over other stuff, energy blast, punches, blah, blah, blah. But for those that don't know, Thor right here is practically Odin and Thor put together. So literally Thor is a Sky Father tier being. So when you see Knull get hit, regenerate from this guy, use his blade to stab through him like this is all a feat for Knull. He's stabbing through a Sky Father tier being, durability wise, even though his back was turned. Standard Thor tier type beings can hit with so much force that their hits are compared to the Big Bang. Just standard based Thor level beings can hit with attacks that simultaneously go across all planes of reality, shaking multiple universes basically. Base Thor can produce shockwaves that go the length of the entire cosmos. Just base Thor tier beings, y'all. Now add this power on top of the Odin Force, his energy that his dad had. Add all that together with how strong Odin is, somebody that can make shockwaves which ripple across every plane of reality, yo. Multiverse-wide shockwave type stuff, y'all. This is the kind of impact Skyfather tiers can do to collateral damage of the universes and stuff. They're in the middle of hitting each other, so these beings can hit each other with this kind of force, showing their durability. Their bodies are resilient. Skyfather tier's bodies are resilient. So Knull doing this is essentially stabbing in a Skyfather tier being. He's essentially stabbing into beings that can withstand multiverse shaking kind of impacts or multiple universes being shook, shockwaves that ripple across different universes. This is the kind of beings he's stabbing, beings that are that durable, like Skyfather tiers. It's no wonder he can sword fight powerful beings like the Silver Surfer. It's also implied that Knull has sword experience using a blade. See, in Marvel, there's a lot of beings. See, Knull got an encounter with an actual planet. I'm talking about a planet that's actually alive. Ego, the living planet, a planet blasted him with a planet-sized energy blast, and he was able to withstand it. Ego, the living planet, is no stranger to being compared to abstract cosmic type beings like Galactus and stuff. There's even moments where they say they're not even sure if Galactus's power would be enough against Ego. So that lets you know what Knull is getting blasted by isn't simply just a planetary kind of feat. It's a being way above that, even though he's planet-sized. Remember how earlier I brought up Knull messing up a Celestial? Well, let's talk about that a little bit deeper, all right? Okay, so Celestials are very powerful when it comes to blast power, but they can withstand their own blast coming at them. And I know every Celestial's power varies, but depending on each one, but any Celestial is pretty much cosmic being status, honestly. But I want to show you guys that despite which Celestial we're talking about, their durability adds up to how much they can dish out. Show them when their own attacks hit him. I just already talked about Skyfather tiers already. Okay, so you know how I already showed Knull overpowering Skyfather tiers? Okay, the Celestials, right? Took a blast from the combined power of 3 Skyfather tier beings, Zeus and Odin being 2 of them. That lets you know how durable these Celestials are, like higher end ones like Ursham. High-end Celestials like Ursham got pierced by the Odin sword. It did pierce him, but he kind of shrugged it off. And does this to the Odin sword. That's a sword that's unsheathed that can rip the fabric of infinity, by the way, y'all. I showed this at the very beginning of the video, but I'm back to it. I just showed you all the durability feats of those Celestials. That's why him decapitating a Celestial with a single blow is absolute madness. We're not even going to talk about the Celestials working together. They can bust up the Destroyer armor, y'all. You can look at this like an off-screen feat, but bare minimally, Knull had to defeat at least 3 different Celestials, so it's a consistent theme. During the Knull invasion, were 3 different Celestial corpses, so it lets you know that Knull had to at least defeat 3, bare minimally. You're probably wondering, what about telepaths going in his mind and shutting them down that way? Let's just say that's not a good strategy because some of the strongest telepathic type beings in Marvel history get overwhelmed by his mind, like one of the beings being Moondragon. I look at it like this. If Jean Grey can't overpower him with mind hacks, nobody can. I mean, she's an omega level telepath. And this was too much for her. Mind. Yeah, so Emma, any other psionic being, y'all shouldn't even try. If Jean Grey can't do nothing about it. When we're talking about the high end of Marvel, right? Okay, what about other cosmic beings other than Celestials, right? Celestials, Galactus, this hierarchy of power, ridiculously high end characters. I would technically put Galactus up here, you know, when he's well fed though. But yeah, the highest of the highest when it comes to cosmic being hierarchies are beings like Eternity and Infinity. A lot of people would agree with that, right? There's implications that Knull is on such a cosmic hierarchy, cosmic being status that he was a threat for the universe itself as a whole. Like I'm talking about Eternity, because there was this occasion with Silver Surfer and he didn't know how to win. And his best bet was to ask somebody that survived the end of everything once before. Galen, like, you know how Galactus came from another universe? He lived in another universe before Eternity. They're implying this kind of scope when it comes to Knull being a threat for such higher dimensional, the cosmos itself type stuff. Like what? Marvel's Eternity encompasses all the multiverse, like especially in multi-eternity, like infinite universes exist in Eternity. Yeah, apparently Knull could be a threat for all of that. Like that's crazy. Saying he's a threat to the universe is an oversimplification. He's a threat to higher dimensional beings, beings that are above the concept of infinity. Saying he's above universe shattering power is like an oversimplification. He's above higher dimensional beings, beings that are bigger than infinity itself, threatening characters like Eternity and such. You're probably thinking, if he's this powerful, how are any of the heroes competing with him in these comic panels, right? Well, to balance all this stuff out, Knull technically has, like, you could say his own kryptonite that other characters can use if they figure out what his kryptonite is. These comics kind of hint at his weakness when it comes to like metaphysical light or just cosmic light, because the Silver Surfer was using technically light, but I don't think his weakness was discovered completely here yet. Like, it's these occasions here that kind of tease his weakness to light. Like, it was kind of revealed with Jean Grey went in his mind, and it was talking about how light in general has always been like his main enemy. He's the darkness, light. The light bonded itself with warriors to rage against him. The light was sentient, alive. It gave this army unimaginable power. This point in time, the light was young, so it does still take a certain amount of light to even beat him, but it's kind of like the closest thing you're going to get to kryptonite. So he actually overwhelmed it back then, which was his true enemy. It was stretched too thin. And so it became something new. It would choose a single being in all of the universe, bond with them, make them better. That's why the Enigma Force bonding with somebody, Captain Universe, makes them Captain Universe, it makes them the god of light, which had happened to Venom, which is why he was massively powered up, being able to wield Mjolnir. And that's why he was able to weaken Knull. This level of metaphysical light, now that it's matured from the past, could actually overwhelm Knull. So this is the only way on how they actually defeated Knull, weakening him with this light, stripping of his armor, taking him to the ultimate source of light, the sun, after weakened. And that's how they did that. I would also like to mention the area early in the video when I showed him forging stuff in the Celestial head. You can say he siphons that energy from the Celestial, and if you mess up that connection to that Celestial, you can kind of weaken him, I would say. So on a lot of these panels, even if I didn't necessarily say it, when you see the characters kind of giving him some issues, there's a good possibility in those stories he could even be weakened then. Just in case you're wondering, how can he be this strong with the characters are giving him issues still? Like, just in case you're wondering. And that's the explanation on how everybody was even able to give him a somewhat of a challenge. I mean, think about it. He's a being that withstood the heat of the Big Bang. I mean, he was right here next to the Big Bang. To make matters worse, you could argue he can make his body kind of fluidy to where if you try to hit him, he's like kind of liquidy to where it's like a waste of time if you try to hit him. And then he can just take away your symbiote. This isn't Knull right here, but beings like Gorr the God Butcher, part of the reason why he's so strong is basically because of Knull, the Necro Sword. See, you can kind of get an idea of how scary Knull is based on the all black feats we see Gorr do. Like, Gorr got so crazy with the all black that he said forget his normal flesh. The Necro Sword is his body now. He's been feeding, growing, feeding on the dead tissue of this rotten universe. He's all around you all at the same time. Gorr basically became a living universe of blackness thanks to this Necro Sword that's technically Knull's power, and became his own Necroverse universe. This is the kind of stuff Knull created, like a weapon that can get this overpowered. Not to mention in this particular situation, Gorr was fighting old King Thor, who is ridiculously powered up more than normal. And they even break it down with more words about what this did. The Necro Sword basically becoming literally everything, including superclusters, constellations, the dark nebulae. They're the fingers, and the black hole is his hungry gullet. All of this stuff just makes Knull look more impressive because he is the creator of this sword. Why wouldn't he be able to do all this stuff too? If Gorr was able to do all of this stuff, feasting on the universe. And of course he has absurd combat speed. You already seen the people he's fighting in this video. He's so powerful. It's like, why does he need speed again? But believe me, he's fast enough to move like a blur, dodging and blitzing you before you even know what's going on. You can clearly see Odin Force Thor using his raw travel speed to blitz at Knull. Knull moves out of the way and counters Thor this way. How many characters do you know that wakes up from the light of the Big Bang, makes a super sword out of darkness, and one-shots a Celestial? Not many, right? But before I get going, y'all, I want you to say it one more time. Respect Knull. And thanks for the donations, y'all. I'm glad you are enjoying your time on the channel. Make sure you check out the playlist on the channel to see other How Strong videos. If you like what this channel is offering, make sure you hit that subscribe button, and I will see you guys later.